Now for our story.
Coming. Coming.
Sounds like Aunt Mary.
Randy.
Hello, Mom.
Oh,
I'm home.
oh, Randy. Randy.
Yes, Randy Lane had come home at last. And characteristically, he dropped in unannounced to surprise them all. And now Peggy and Lefty come running to find Aunt Mary in the doorway clasped in her tall son's arms while Nicholas Dorn stands by looking very much surprised. And meanwhile, Jane Plummer, who had been visiting with Aunt Mary in the kitchen, slipped quietly out of the back door. Her heart was pounding as she realized Randy was home, and she was sure that her thrilling happiness would be too apparent, especially to Randy. Now, Aunt Mary lifts her head from Randy's shoulder and dries her happy tears with a corner of her apron.
Oh, my goodness. Look at us all standing here with the door wide open, letting out all the heat. And, Nicholas, I haven't even said hello.
Hello, Aunt Mary.
Come in, boys. Come in.
All right. Peggy! It is you, isn't it?
Hello, Randy.
Oh, Peggy. Well, you've grown up so. I'm almost afraid to hug you.
Well, don't be. Oh, Randy, I can't believe it.
Well, I can hardly believe it myself. Oh. Say, where's Lefty?
I'm right here, boy. I just thought I'd let the women folks have their innings.
Well, come here and let me shake hands with you. I've
Yeah.
got 2 arms, you know. Oh, gosh, it's good to see you, old so-and-so. Well, you haven't changed anyway.
No, I'm the same old down-at-the-heel bum I've always been.
You look mighty good to me.
Well, how did it happen, Randy? When did you get in, and how did you meet Nicholas?
I guess I'd better introduce myself, Randy. I'm Nicholas Dorn.
But didn't you two arrive together? I thought you knew each other by now.
No, Aunt Mary, I picked him up just outside of town. He certainly kept his identity a secret. Well, I'm afraid I pulled a fast one on you, Dorn. I realized who you were right away from Peggy's letters. But I thought if I didn't introduce myself, I might get a little extra news. Well, fine thing. I might have cut my own throat without knowing it. No. I was pretty sure you'd give the right answer.
Oh, my pies. They're in the oven. I'll be right back.
Oh, no, you don't, Mom. I'm right at your heels. And boy, am I hungry.
You're lucky you're having your favorite dinner. Fried chicken and...
Mint pie. Mom, now I know I'm home.
Gosh, it's good to hear those two together again.
I can hardly believe it, Lefty. He's back.
Yeah. He looks wonderful, doesn't he?
Oh, I think he's a little thin.
Oh, no, he looks swell.
Doesn't he look grown up and handsome?
Look, I think I'd better run along. This is a family party.
Oh, no, Nick.
Well, I should say you're not going to leave. Why, you're practically part of the family anyway.
but-
We want
Lefty,
you to stay, Nick. And you'll like Randy. I know you will.
Hey, I'm not so sure about that, Peggy. I played your boyfriend quite a dirty trick on the way up. You certainly did, pal, pretending to be a stranger in these parts. Well, I was just working up to the point of asking him what he thought about you, Peggy.
Oh?
And I was hoping he'd say, who? That skinny little niece of Aunt Mary?
Oh, you did. And what would you have done then?
Probably punched him in the nose. It was just fate that saved me. Thank heaven we arrived here at the farm before he had time to ask me.
Oh, my goodness. I forgot all about Jane. Where is she?
Jane Plummer, is she here?
She was out in the kitchen with Aunt Mary just before you came. Aunt Mary? Well, dinner's almost ready. Chicken has to fry just a little longer. We can sit down and talk for a little bit. Aunt Mary, what became of Jane? Oh, for heaven's sake, I forgot all about Jane in the excitement. She must have slipped out the back door. That's funny.
Little Jane Plummer. Well, I'll have to drop over and see her soon.
Yes, Sandy, you must.
Oh, gosh, everything looks swell. Just the way it used to. Lefty's old armchair. Mom's sewing desk. Even the old copies of the Farm Journal collected in the magazine stand.
They're probably the same issues, too. We can't get Lefty to part with a single one of them. There's always something he's going to cut out later.
Well, darn it, those things are valuable.
Oh, go on, Lefty. You're a magazine hoarder from way back.
Well, at least he doesn't save old alarm clocks like some people I know.
Oh, well, now that's different. I was always going to find out what was wrong. Get him running again.
Nick, you've never seen such a mess. It used to be my job to straighten up Randy's room Saturday mornings. And did I have a time wading through wires and wheels and heaven knows what else?
Well, he probably has a scientific bent. You should have encouraged him.
Randy can fix anything.
Say thanks, Mom. You've always been my best booster.
And you've always been mine, son.
Well, Randy, everything in the house looks the same, but what about all of us? Do you see any change?
Oh, you look about the same, Lefty. And Mom. But, Peggy's certainly a different girl.
I am? How, Randy?
Well, you've grown up so much.
Oh, my, I noticed it, too, even though I've been able to see it happening.
Well, I'm glad you noticed it anyway. I was afraid you wouldn't.
Yeah, Peggy, you're quite a young lady now. Of course, I'd gathered from letters that you'd turned into a very pretty gal. But I wasn't quite prepared for this.
Oh, goodness, this makes me feel wonderful. Tell me more, Randy.
Oh, I don't know. You seem to be more sure of yourself, more sophisticated. And yet you're still the same sweet little kid you were when you were 12. When you used to make me mad by sneaking off with my bicycle.
Oh, Randy.
Well, thanks, Randy. Now I'm getting the real lowdown on this young woman. Lefty and Aunt Mary are no help. They always cover up for her. They don't give me the terrible truth.
Oh, she's not bad, really. But just keep her under your thumb, Dorn. She's like most women. Has to be disciplined occasionally.
Oh, you don't say. Well, maybe that's where I've been making my mistake. I've been too easy with her.
Well, on the level, I think you're a very lucky guy. And I'm sure glad I got back in time for the big event. When Peggy wrote me about it, there didn't seem to be much hope of getting home in time.
Well, Randy.
Oh, say, what's the matter? Hey, don't tell me I am too late. It's all over?
No, that is, well, you're not too late, Randy. It's just that the wedding's been postponed for the time being.
Oh. I see.
Well, I'd better be getting dinner on.
I'll come and help you, Aunt Mary.
Oh, you needn't, dear. Why don't you stay and talk to the boys?
No, I'd rather help. We'll all have plenty of time to talk later.
All right, then.
I think I'll go out and take a look around. Even if it is dark, I can get an idea how things look.
Yes, quite a few changes around outside.
There are? Well, we'll have to go on a real tour in the morning. This is just a quick once-over. Oh, you want to come, Dorn?
Thanks. I think I will.
I think I'll go along, too.
Lefty, I'll need you in the kitchen.
Oh, okay, Aunt Mary.
Hey, Mom.
Yes, son?
I just want to see that beautiful smile of yours again.
I'm so happy, Randy.
Same here, Mom.
Now, don't be too long. Dinner will be ready in a jiffy.
Okay.
Oh, Randy, you sure surprised him.
Yeah, I guess I did. Hey, just noticed. They painted the house.
Oh, yeah, several months ago. Looks fine, too. Peggy wanted the shutters yellow and Lefty wanted them blue. There was quite a discussion about it.
Oh, what color are they?
Green.
A compromise, huh? Oh, gosh, it's wonderful. Home. I can't get over it.
Yeah, I think I know how you feel. Can't imagine a nicer place or family to come home to. And it'll be wonderful for them to have you back, too. Mother and Lefty have been doing fine, but they could certainly use some help keeping things up.
I know. I'm going to pitch in and help the next few months. Until I decide just what I'm going to do. Oh, by the way, Dawn, I seem to have put my foot in it a while ago. I'm sorry.
You mean about the wedding?
Yeah.
That's okay. No way for you to know what's been cooking.
But I'm interested, though. What is cooking?
Big brother stuff, huh?
Well, I guess that's it. I've always felt more like a brother to Peggy than a cousin. Hope you don't mind.
Oh, no, not at all. Well, briefly, Peggy and I were both pretty beat-up characters when we first met. And after we'd known each other quite a while, we decided to join forces. Get married on a basis of mutual respect and understanding, omitting all the usual more sentimental aspects.
What happened?
And you're probably way ahead of me already. I upset the apple cart by falling in love with her.
Well, that's not much of a surprise.
No, I suppose any idiot would have foreseen it. Anyone but me. Created quite a situation.
I don't get it.
Well, you see, there's Bill Meade. You know the guy, don't you?
No, only through letters. Well, what's he got to do with it? I know about him and Peggy going around together for a while, and all that about Kitt Calvert's cutting in. But nothing's been mentioned for so long, I just assumed Meade was entirely out of the picture.
Oh, that's where you're wrong. Bill and Kitt are on the outs now, scheduled to get a divorce. And I'm convinced, whether Peggy herself realizes it or not, that Bill Meade is far from out of the picture where she's concerned.
Nicholas Dorn's voice was positive, but what Nicholas didn't know was that Bill Meade might not be able to get a divorce. That only today Bill's attorney, Angus McKillop, had told Bill that he had no grounds on which to sue for a divorce. Now for our story. This morning, the first since his arrival home, Randy Lane had arisen at sunrise. But early as it was, Aunt Mary was up already getting a fire started in the kitchen stove. Peggy was still sound asleep upstairs, and Lefty Larkin, Aunt Mary's old friend and helper, had not appeared from his little house near the road. Soon the kitchen was warm and cozy, fragrant with the odor of freshly made coffee. Now, mother and son, alone for the first time since Randy's unexpected arrival from the South Pacific the previous evening, are enjoying a leisurely, intimate breakfast. The kind they used to have in the old days.
More coffee, son?
Thanks. Tastes wonderful, Mom.
I thought you'd probably sleep late this morning.
Well, I was anxious to look things over in the daylight. Besides, I wanted to talk to you. There's so much to catch up. Letters are swell, but they never give the whole story.
Oh, I should say they don't. Even when you get a lot of them. Yours used to be all worn out from being passed around, reread. Lefty always carried at least one of them in his pocket to read to people.
He must have bored everyone stiff with them. They weren't what you'd call literary masterpieces.
They were from you. That was enough for us.
It's funny. I can't get used to it.
Being home?
Mm-hmm. You think about it, dream about it, and then, well, when you're really home, you keep thinking it must be just another dream. Too good to be true.
Well, it'll take you a little while to settle down.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But I've always noticed that the past recedes pretty quickly. The present blots it out almost before you realize.
That's right, Mom, it does. Just now I'm sort of suspended between the two. Sort of floating. You look swell, Mom. Except maybe a little tired.
I got a little older while you've been away, that's all.
Oh, no. You've been working too hard. But I'll soon take care of that.
You don't say. Well, I see that I'm going to have 3 bosses now. Peggy and Lefty weren't enough.
Peggy. Good grief, how that kid has grown up. I just can't get over it. She was still practically a little girl when I went away.
Yeah. Well, at that age, girls seem to mature all of a sudden. And then Peggy's had quite a lot of unhappiness for her years. She's gone through a great deal more than most girls in the last year or two.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I had quite a talk with Dorn last night. From what he told me and what I knew already, I pieced together most of the story. Too bad it had to turn out this way.
Yeah. Although I think Nicholas was quite right to postpone the wedding.
If he's right about Peggy's feeling for Bill Meade, I suppose he is. I'll have to meet that guy. Meade, I mean. From your letters, I've gathered he's had pretty rough treatment from the Calvert clan. That's one thing around here that hasn't changed, I'll bet. The Calverts.
No, Randy. I'm afraid things are just about the way they've always been, over on 11th Street.
I'd hoped that maybe they would have pulled up stakes or something.
Oh, I doubt if that will ever happen. Kitt was away for a while, though. She went to California.
Yeah? Well, it's a darn shame she didn't stay there. I remember one summer vacation when she came home from school. She was a stuck-up, spoiled little wench even then.
Poor child. In many ways, she's more to be pitied than blamed.
Mom, you're always willing to give the other fellow a break, aren't you? You know, personally, if I'd suffered as much from Ben Calvert as you have, the way he's always hounded you and tried to make things unpleasant, and now his daughter has to cross Peggy up, well, I'd...
Well, Randy, I don't deny that Ben Kitt had caused a great deal of unhappiness between them.
You're darn right they have.
But if you understand the reasons why people do the things they do, it's hard to hold them entirely responsible. Kitt especially. She's very much the result of her father's influence.
Well, that doesn't excuse her for being selfish and inconsiderate.
No, perhaps it doesn't excuse her, dear. But you see, I keep remembering how that girl was when she came back to Wakefield a year or so ago. And she and Peggy were such good friends. She used to come out here a lot. I think she sincerely wanted to be friends. She seemed to be looking for something to tie to then. Something and someone to believe in.
No? Well, what happened? What changed it?
Well, it started when she met Bill Meade. He was different from any man she'd known, I guess. She was frankly infatuated with him. Perhaps if she'd met Bill later, after she'd learned more about consideration of others and playing fair, things might have been different. But, as it was...
Mm-hmm. She just reached out and grabbed him away from Peggy. Was that it?
Just about. And Ben began to take an interest in the thing. He backed her up, of course. Not that he particularly liked Bill, so far as I know, but chiefly because he knew hurting Peggy would hurt us. All of us out here. And you know how Ben feels about the Lane household.
The old tyrant. Well, never mind, Mom. You've got another man in the house now. Between Lefty and me, I think we'll be able to keep things under control.
I'm sure you will, dear. It makes me feel very safe, having my son in the house again. Not that I want or expect you to take on any responsibility in regard to the Calverts.
Well, I will.
Oh, it won't be necessary, I'm sure.
Mom, what makes you say that? They've been kicking up all this trouble.
People like that. Well, Randy, sooner or later things catch up with them somehow. They can't go on breaking the laws of humanity and goodness without paying for it in the long run.
Then you think Kitt Meade will have to pay eventually?
Indeed, I do. Yes, Randy. I'm afraid that young woman has a great deal of tragedy coming her way.
And at that moment, Kitt Meade, the young woman responsible for so much unhappiness, the young woman whom Aunt Mary believed would sooner or later suffer a great deal of unhappiness herself, was sitting up in bed, comfortably propped with pillows, while she sipped her orange juice and coffee. She looked quickly through the mail which had been placed on her breakfast tray, examining the handwriting on each envelope. Then, with an expression of relief, she sank back, thinking.
Nothing from Paul yet. It's been 2 days since he left. I wonder what he's up to. It's not like Paul to do nothing at all. I've got to find out what he's planning before Dad gets us into this fight over custody and the divorce. If Paul's taken it into his head to tell the story about Lisa... Oh, but he wouldn't do that. He said he wouldn't. He said he had another plan. A better plan. I can't see Paul doing anything which might expose him, too, but... Oh, if I only knew. The worst of it is not knowing what to expect. Well, I've got to know.
Number, please.
Hello, operator. This is Mrs. Meade at Ben Calvert's home. I want to put in a call to the Lake Drive Hotel in Chicago, please. I'll wait.
Yes, Mrs. Meade.
Long distance.
Hello, Chicago. This is Wakefield calling. The Lake Drive Hotel.
Will you speak to anyone at that number?
Hold on, Chicago. Mrs. Meade, are you calling someone in particular at the hotel?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'd like to speak to Mr. Paul Cromwell.
Mr. Paul Cromwell? Just a moment, Mrs. Meade. Hello, Chicago. My party is calling Mr. Paul Cromwell.
One moment, please.
Lake Drive Hotel.
Hello. We have a long distance from Wakefield for Mr. Paul Cromwell.
Mr. Cromwell? I'm sorry, Mr. Cromwell has checked out.
Just a moment. Wakefield, Mr. Cromwell has checked out of the hotel. Will your party speak to anyone else?
Hello, Mrs. Meade. Mr. Cromwell...
Yes, I heard he's checked out. All right, thank you. No, wait a minute. See if Mrs. Lisa Fenner is there, please.
Hello, Chicago. Try Mrs. Lisa Fenner.
Is Mrs. Lisa Fenner there?
Mrs. Fenner has checked out also.
Mrs. Fenner has checked out also.
I heard her, operator. That'll be all. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So they've both checked out. That must mean they've gone on together. No, Paul was just angry, threatening me. He didn't really intend to make trouble after all. Well, I've been worrying about nothing.
No, Kitt, you're wrong. You haven't been worrying about nothing, because at this very moment, Lisa Fenner is on a train bound for Wakefield. Lisa Fenner, who has but one thought in mind, to claim the baby son you took from her by trickery. Yes, in a few short hours, Lisa will arrive in Wakefield. Now for our story. The afternoon train from Chicago pulled into the station in Wakefield, paused long enough to throw off the mail bags and to allow one lone passenger, a slim, attractive young woman, to alight. It was Lisa Fenner who stood uncertainly beside her suitcase as the train pulled away again. There was something forlorn about her solitary figure as she stood on the bare, empty platform looking after the departing train, which had for a few short hours provided a shelter to her, a temporary haven in a world which was alien and threatening. When Lisa had arrived at her destination, the Brown Palace Hotel on Wakefield's Main Street, she hadn't even stopped to freshen up after her journey. She had seized the slim telephone directory from the bedside stand, hurriedly scanned it until she found what she wanted, the address of Ben Calvert's house on 11th Street. That was where Kitt Meade lived, with Lisa's child, the baby boy who everyone believed to be Kitt's. Now, A short while later, Lisa waits anxiously on the veranda of that luxurious home for an answer to her ring.
Yes, ma'am? I'd like to see Mrs. Meade. I'm sorry, but Mrs. Meade isn't here just now.
Who is it, Lucy?
It's someone to see Mrs. Meade.
Oh, well, just a moment.
How do you do? I wonder if I could help you.
Well, I wanted to see Mrs. Meade. Perhaps I should come back later.
Well, I'm Mrs. Calvert, Mrs. Meade's stepmother. Is there something I can do?
No, I'm afraid not.
Well, Kitt ought to be back very soon. Was she expecting you?
No. I'm a friend of hers from California.
Oh, from California. Well, how interesting. Kitt will be so pleased. That will be all, Lucy.
Yes, Mrs. Calvert.
Won't you come in, Mrs.
Fenner? But if Kitt isn't here, perhaps
Oh, do come in. I'm sure Kitt would never forgive me if I let you go away without seeing her.
Well, I suppose I may as well wait.
Well, of course. Here, let me pull this chair a little closer to the fire. You look cold.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Calvert. That fire does feel good.
I imagine since you're from California that this weather must be rather hard to take at first.
Well, yes, it is pretty cold. But I hadn't noticed it very much. I just got off the train a little while ago. And...
Really? Then you just arrived in town?
Well, yes.
Fenner. Forgive me, Mrs. Fenner, but I'm trying to think. Kitt must have mentioned your name.
No, I doubt if she would.
Have you known her quite some time?
Yes. But she might not have mentioned me particularly.
Well, you probably knew her when she was expecting the baby. I imagine that clouded everything else out of her mind at the time.
The baby? How is the baby, Mrs. Calvert?
Oh, just fine. You'll probably be amazed at how he's grown. We've been trying to make up our minds which side of the family he takes after. But so far he doesn't seem to look like anyone.
He doesn't?
No, not a bit. Although they say it's quite usual.
Are his eyes brown or...
Yes, dark brown. But just about the color of yours, come to think of it. But, haven't you seen him?
Oh, no. No, I haven't seen him.
Oh, forgive me. I just assumed you were interested.
Oh, I am, Mrs. Calvert. You see, I've thought so... Well, I heard Kitt talk so much about her child when she was expecting it. I've wondered so often. Has he dark hair?
Mm-hmm. Miss Thorndyke insists it's going to be wavy.
Miss Thorndyke?
She's his nurse. Simply devoted to the child, too.
His nurse?
You look rather surprised, Miss Fenner.
Well, it's just that I thought Kitt would take care of him himself.
Oh, you didn't really.
Well,
Well, apparently you don't know Kitt so awfully well. If you pictured her spending much time in the nursery...
Perhaps not.
No, I'm afraid Kitt's not the sort to be interested in the more tiresome aspects of motherhood. She takes it all pretty much in her stride.
Then the baby's looked after by just the nurse.
Oh, yes, Kitt's turned the child over to Miss Thorndyke completely. And I must say he's being raised in the very latest scientific way. That's one thing Kitt's sure of. He doesn't believe in a lot of sentimental nonsense.
Sentimental, Mrs. Calvert? I don't think I understand.
Oh, you know how some mothers are, always hovering over a child. The way they pick them up and baby them. Not Kitt, though. Her idea is that an infant is really just a healthy little animal.
Oh, she can't really think that.
Well, more or less. Does that shock you, Mrs. Fenner? Perhaps you have children of your own.
No. I haven't.
You seem so interested. Or perhaps you're just being polite. Well, don't be on my account. Heaven knows I'd rather talk of something.
Oh, no. No, you see, as I told you, I heard Kitt make so many plans, talk about the baby so much. Well, that's why I probably seem very curious.
I see.
Mrs. Calvert, I wonder, could I see him?
No?
Yes. Could I?
Of course, Mrs. Fenner. You don't need a special dispensation. Thought you'd probably rather wait for Kitt.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, as long as she isn't here yet.
Well, come along. He's right out here on the terrace having his nap. I'm afraid I spoke too soon. Well, we'll go out and say hello. Oh, my goodness, listen to the little monkey. Nothing wrong with his lungs.
Hello, Mrs. Calvert.
Hello, Miss Thorndyke. Is he all right?
Oh, yes, he's just hungry. Time for his feeding.
Again? Seems every time you turn around, Mrs. Fenner, it's time to feed him again. Oh, forgive me. This is Miss Thorndyke, Mrs. Fenner.
How do you do? Hello.
And this is young Master Mead.
Come over here, Mrs. Fenner, where you can get a good look at him. Hello there, baby. Hello.
Well, for heaven's sake, you must have some magic power, Mrs. Fenner.
Well, look at him. He's grinning from ear to ear. Are you smiling at me, baby? Oh, you've made a great hit with him, Mrs. Fenner. I never saw him take to anyone like that.
Oh, well, I wonder if you'd make yourself at home, Mrs. Fenner.
What?
Well, I was just finishing up some chores.
Oh, please don't let me interrupt anything.
Oh, well, I have to settle up some accounts. I just can't seem to make them come out even this month. Sure you won't be too cold out here?
Oh, no. I'm very comfortable.
Well, all right, then. I won't be long. And if Kitt comes, I'll send her out right away.
Thank you.
I can't get over the way he's acting.
It's odd how babies make up their minds about people. They'll blossom right out for one person. Pay no attention to another. Really? I didn't know.
Oh, my, yes.
It's almost as if they feel a bond. Some special understanding. Do you think he feels one with me?
Well, Mrs. Fenner, the books probably wouldn't agree with me.
But I think a baby can tell when a person goes out to him. You see, he knows you like him.
Like him?
Oh, yes, I like him.
Well, I hate to take him away, but I'd better get this young man up to the nursery. It's time for his feeding. If you'll excuse us, Mrs. Fenner.
But does he have to go in? I mean, couldn't he stay out here?
Well, we have a very strict schedule we follow. His grandfather particularly insists on it.
Oh.
But I'm very susceptible to anyone who admires that young man. I'll go and get his bottle. It certainly won't do any harm to break his schedule this once.
No harm, Miss Thorndyke? You wouldn't say that if you knew that this young woman whom you are leaving alone with the baby is really his mother. A mother who is seeing her son for the first time. As soon as the door closed after nurse, Lisa Fenner snatched the baby up, held him close in her arms. She looked quickly over her shoulder toward the house. Then her eyes turned toward the broad walk which led through the garden to the street